this is your second year with this game. Has the way you frame the rivalry to your players changed this year, and if so, how?
Yes, it has. Obviously, the first season we weren't able to participate. We know the circumstances around that one. Last year was the first opportunity for me to experience it, and I've framed it a different way. I'm leaning on my experience in a rivalry and the approach and understanding the big picture, what it means. It's not just a game that you play because it's the last one on the schedule. It's one that's a season of itself. It lasts for 365 days. It means a lot to a lot of people, and it's not we don't have a choice. We got a responsibility, and so definitely have framed it now that I've experienced it. And I think knowing the history behind it, there's a lot of things that we have to change collectively in order to get it back to being a rivalry where it's competitive, and challenging this football team to be different. To be the ones that start the change to make it more competitive.
What's Kobe Pace's status going into Saturday? And I guess given some of the injuries at that position, any chance you guys would consider using Chris Tyree at running back if you had to?
Yeah, I mean, start backwards and kind of work to the first part of that question. With Chris Tyree, he does have a skill set, but we also need him at wide out. So we know for sure that X is going to be down with the shoulder. Kobe will be more, end of the week, type of decision. See how much he heals up before we know for sure. We got to rep the young backs. We got to find a way to generate some run game. We will consider Chris, but it's a tough ask in 1 week for a guy that's been playing receiver all year just to make the switch. But all hands on deck. We'll do whatever it takes.
What did you see from Noah on Saturday that maybe you liked or want to see more of?
Yeah, so I feel like he's got a ton of upside and a lot of potential. I think once he gets going in a rhythm and a groove, I think it's when you really start to see the quick feet that he has and the vision. But he's got to grow up in pass protection. That's the one area, and that's always the biggest transition for young backs. Especially when you're in there on third down and you see like in the NFL, they have third down backs because they specialize in the ability to protect because of all the exotic looks that they end up seeing. So the areas I want to see growth and improvement and hopefully quickly will be in pass protection. And then I think as he just has more reps and more touches, you're going to see more of the things that we see on the practice field. I think he's probably of all the backs the most all around, can do a little bit of everything, but he needs some experience. He needs reps and he needs contact in the game to get him going.
Going into this season, people had you guys pegged next to last in the conference.
16 out of 17.
Picked you for 3 or 4 wins. How big a step is it to just get the results you've gotten, and then how much of a bigger step would it be to get to 6, to beat the rival, to make a bowl game?
Yeah, I think in terms of getting to a bowl game, I think that's the next step in the development of the program, the next progression. So that would be huge. But I think the focus right now is not necessarily the bowl game. I think we gotta take a step in terms of the rivalry and playing our best game, in this game. If that happens, then we have the ability to think about the bowl game. But just outside of that, coming in preseason, I let those folks determine that, but I felt like we had a better team than where we were picked. But we had to go out and we had to earn it. We had to prove it, and actually we let a couple opportunities get away. But it's all part of the growth process. But we're not satisfied. The focus is taking care of business this week, and then hopefully earn another game, which will give us more practices to help us develop more of our roster, and then kind of propel us into the offseason.
So I won't use the word satisfied then, since you just said you're not satisfied. But how much pride do you think that the veterans in this program take in the fact that there is improvement, there is growth, and people always talk about wanting to leave a place better than they found it?
Right. I think that they'll really understand that and put it into context, 5 years from now. When they look back, I think a lot of them are kind of in the grind, and they're just trying to daily exhibit that pride. So I don't know if they're thinking about it, the way that we're thinking about it, because they're living it every single day. But when they look back and they look at their career and all the things and all the challenges and adversity that they've had to face, and the perseverance that they've displayed, the commitment that they've given to this program, and how they've set this program up for the future, they're going to take a ton of pride in that.
Between all the injuries in the secondary, and you got to see guys step up in different roles. You saw Ethan Minter come in last weekend, a guy who switched from quarterback to that position. Has he shocked you in how quick he was able to absorb the playbook and also adapt to that new position?
Yes and no. And I say no because if you know who Ethan Minter is, and we got to know him in the recruiting process, he's an outstanding young man that takes a lot of pride in everything that he does. He loves football, so he's constantly, thinking about the game. The transition to the position, the movement, going from being a quarterback that it does backpedal a little bit, but it's kind of sideways, but he does mostly run forward, where now you're spending most of your time running backwards and then transitioning. So that impressed me, how quickly he was able to just become in tune with the movements. But just in terms of football IQ, it didn't surprise me. He's quarterback, so he's used to absorbing playbooks and learning quickly and making adjustments every single week. But to see it all happen as quickly, and he really didn't have a choice. But he did choose to say, you know what, I'm going to embrace it, and I'm glad that he did, because he's been forced into a role where he's had to go out there, and it doesn't matter if he's a freshman. Like, nobody stops the game and says, "Hey, Ethan's in there. Let's call basic plays." Right? They're going to attack him, and but he's also done a great job too of showing leadership. So I think you see from the quarterback background, he's able to take guys even older than him and inspire them and motivate them to want to absorb the playbook quicker, and forcing those guys to want to come in and meet on their own, putting in that extra.
With Kempton Shine leaving the game with an injury, you had to rely on Kendan Smith on the fly, switching him from safety to corner. He's doing that a lot this season. How much have you seen his utility on the field, and how much he's been able to adapt, and also Shine's status for the game?
That's right. So that was a big reason why we were interested in bringing Kendan in, because he could play corner, but we also knew he could transition and play some of the nickel or field safety, as we call it. And he's having to do it on the fly. I mean, he's a UPenn grad, so we know he's smart. He's played a lot of football. He's got some experience, so he can adapt a little bit quicker than maybe a young guy per se. He's been a do-it-all kind of guy for us on special teams, making plays as well. So we believe that's who he could be, and he's been forced in that role. You're seeing it's a three-way switch. If Kempton goes out, then Kendan goes to corner. Ethan comes in. Corey's dropped down to so it's a lot of moving parts because of where we are with injury. And Kempton had a foot and a knee during the game. I think the foot is good, and the knee's still bothering him a little bit. But I'm hopeful that by the end of the week he'll be ready to roll.
Yeah, Tyler Neville said there wasn't a lot of looking back on what kind of went wrong offensively. It was kind of just on to the next one. How can you change kind of results offensively in such a short time span, going from Saturday to next Saturday?
Yeah, so I know how it felt on Saturday. Man, it felt like everything was just going wrong. But when you watch the tape, it comes back to what it typically is. It's a game of inches. Right, so I evaluate everything critically, especially the offense in terms of the calls. Are the calls putting the guys in position? So I'm looking for hats and angles, right? Then I'm also looking for technique, execution, and when you look at it, it was one guy, maybe not stepping, exactly the way he's supposed to step. Right, or one guy, sliding a little bit too far, oversetting. So it wasn't like it was all broken, right? A lot of it is, and then sometimes it was the quarterback getting the ball out, on first progression and just trusting it. And then there was some issues that you're just going to have to kind of grow through when you got young backs in there, trying to pick up third down protections from that standpoint. And so when you look at it, it wasn't as bad as it felt in the game, and all the things are correctable. Right, and it's correctable with guys just straining a little bit harder, right, fundamentally, and then having the right mindset collectively to go out and play their best game. So I know what Tyler said. We're going to correct those things, right, and that's what happens on Monday. But every week you got 30 minutes of special teams and an hour meeting for offense, defense, and you got to get those things corrected, and you also got to prep for the next. So each week it's a really, really quick turnaround. So, but also too with this one, it's going to take us correcting those mistakes. But it wasn't a ton of just busted assignments as much as it was, technically we got to be a little bit better. Our pad levels got to be a little bit better. We can't slide, quite as far. And from a protection standpoint, the young backs do have to grow up. Quarterback's got to throw the ball away, right, or he's got to release the ball in the flat right now for the touchdown. Because when you look at it, going back and everyone's going to focus on the sacks, and rightfully so, right? That's the number one stat that everybody's looking at. You look at the sacks, it was, okay, we slid a little bit too far, right, on a base 4 down front. That shouldn't happen, right? We can correct that, right, with proper communication. Then we had a couple of, we had a third, I think it was a 3rd and 6, and we got a receiver open at the sticks, right, and we overset, right, and we get beat inside, and now the quarterback can't step up and rip the ball, right? Those are things that can be corrected. If it was just like discombobulated, guys going all over the place, then I think that's a much tougher fix in a week. There were a couple calls, that coaching staff wise, we can put them in a better situation, but it's really just offensively, it's a bigger, I guess it's more magnified because it's 11 guys. So if you're a little bit off, right, it's going to affect all 11. And there's not that equalizer like on defense. Sometimes you just have a guy go make a play. Offense, it takes all 11. So the focus is to get the right motivation, the right intensity, the right focus this week, to go practice in a way to make sure that our pad level is where it needs to be, so that we can properly have our hands where they need to be able to protect the quarterback, and then really staying on those guys about, getting the ball out when we need to get the ball out, and then everybody understanding that, we got to strain a little bit more because you can't always hit your first progression. Defenses are too good. They're going to take away your first progression. You got to have a little bit of time to get to your second and third progression sometimes.
In this rivalry, there's been several times Virginia Tech's come in looking for bowl eligibility, and they've won those games. And it seems like they find a different gear, just something that hadn't clicked earlier in the year that clicks in this game. How do you guys find that extra gear when it comes to a rivalry game like this?
I knew I was going to get this question. It's rivalry. Bottom line, it's a rivalry. That's what it is. It's a rivalry game. That's the difference. And that's where we have to take a step as a program, staff, players, everybody. It's rivalry week. And that's kind of been the message to everybody. Nothing else matters. Like, it really doesn't. Nothing else matters but what you do this week. And I think that's the difference. And when you have that intensity, when you have that focus, you have that passion, right? And you can block out the distractions because yes, bowl eligibility is on the line, but there's a lot more on the line. Right, and bowl eligibility, right, is what we're after. But I'm really after having all the folks that support Virginia have the upper hand for 365 days. All right, and that's how I was bred in a rivalry, and I think that's the difference of the way you look at it, the perspective that you have. That are you playing for something bigger than yourself? And that's the message that I'm working on, getting the guys to understand the intensity that it takes and the way it should feel, the way you should approach it. And I know I talk a lot about every game is the most important game on the schedule, and that is true. But a rivalry game is different. It's just different. Has to be different for everybody. everybody that's involved, it has to be different. And I think that's what your question is asking. What's the difference? It's the way you approach it and how you see it and how you view it and what you're willing to give, right, to have your team come out on top.
You never want to assume, so you're talking Clemson, South Carolina, when you're talking about the rivalry you were raised in. Mm-hmm. What stood out to you about that rivalry that is similar to this one?
It's two in-state schools, right? It's houses divided. It's bragging rights. I mean, it's a true dislike, right? That's not just on game day. It's 365 days. Man, you have to live with the comments. Man, you have to live with people having bragging rights. You also understand that households, like everything that they do in their household is around this. I mean, it's deep, and I believe that's what it is between us and Tech, but we got to change it on the field. And I think football drives a lot of that. That's what I learned. Like, everything's a rivalry. Every sport's a rivalry, but football drives the overall rivalry for bragging rights. And everybody, they want to brag about every sport, but they really want to brag about football. And records don't matter. Bowl eligibility on the line doesn't matter. What matters is you win in the rivalry game. And so I think the similarities are here, but I got work to do, right, getting my football team, right, to truly understand that, what they're playing for, and what it means to a lot of folks. Because for a lot of folks, it's everything.
Preston also asked you about the protection issues. Mm-hmm. How much are those heightened when you face a player like Antoine Powell-Ryland, and what is he doing to get to quarterback so well?
He's a slippery guy, man. He's a slippery guy. He's got really good pass rush moves. He's got a great spin. He's got a good get off. And so when you say heightened, it just means that you can't get caught up in trying to out-athlete him. You got to trust your fundamentals and your technique, right? You got to trust the design of the scheme, that if I got help, I got help. If I'm locked in man on man, then I have no help. So now my technique is a little bit different. My aiming points, my eyes, right? My footwork is different, and I have to apply, the appropriate technique and footwork based off of the protection call. And then I just can't get caught up in trying to win the matchup. Like, as an athlete, I just gotta go do my job and be technically sound, and then trust that if I do that, I'll give the quarterback enough time to get the ball off, and he'll make it right.
You said after the game Saturday that you need to build a better home field advantage.
Yeah.
Play better at home. The flip side of that is that, 3 of your best wins this season have come on the road. Has there been a common denominator with those road performances?
I think the guys embrace kind of the villain role, going on the road. But to be a great program, you got to defend your house, most importantly, and then be a road warrior. And I think when you start talking about streaks, it's very hard, or very rarely do you see a 35-game road winning streak. But you might see a 35-game home winning streak, right? Or you might see a senior class that, finishes their career undefeated at home as opposed to on the road, because it's just there's more challenges on the road from a logistical standpoint. And then, you don't necessarily have the momentum of the crowd to build off of. But I think the guys have really embraced that mentality, that mindset, and I got to develop the mindset that this is our house. Nobody walks into our house and leaves with a win. Like, if you're going to win anywhere, you should win at home. And so that's the mindset. So I have to figure out how to kind of keep the mindset on the road, but then develop that same mentality that when we run out the tunnel in Scott Stadium, right, it should be +7 for for us before we even kick off. And that's just, again, that's how I think, how I was trained, how the mentality. And then when you're on the road, you're a road warrior. So
For Virginia Tech, Bashaw Tutin's been very consistent runner for them. What do you see stands out about him? You guys saw him last year.
Yeah, he's got deceptive speed, extremely powerful lower body, and he's got great contact balance, right? And he's got good body control. So you see that when you feel like you got him boxed in, and he finds a way to just, move his hips, get his leg out the way so that you can't get a good wrap on him, and then his feet are quickly on the ground. His center of gravity where it needs to be, right? And he's able to power through a lot of runs, and then he's always falling forward. And that's a sign of a great back. Great back, they fall forward. I always trained my running backs, you never want your back on the ground. Everything falls forward. And if you watch him, so even if you hit him at the line of scrimmage, he's going to fall for 2. Or if you hit him at 2, he's going to fall for 4, right? And that makes a big difference. And that's what great backs do.
And then something kind of big picture, the calendar's about to pick up, signing day next week, portal after that. How are you guys preparing for all that, the off-season stuff?
Yeah, so the signing day, everything is accelerated a little bit, so a lot of your class is already determined before the middle of the season, right? We had a couple official visits this past weekend trying to sign a couple more high school guys, and then, man, we're the folks in the scouting department are nonstop with the because now is, I guess, the FCS season is over, so there's a lot of grad transfers and those individuals getting in the portal. And then once the 9th hits, man, it's going to get flooded. So we're already kind of preparing to be evaluating a lot of film, evaluating the film on the guys that are currently in, obviously having conversation with the guys that have entered the portal and approved to talk to. So they're the folks behind the scenes are already working, preparing for finishing out the signing day for the high school guys next week, and then preparing for the portal when it's going to be on and popping. And the difference is this year, though, that makes it a little bit tougher, is it's a dead period all the way up until the portal opens, and then it's a quiet period for 14 days. And so now you're going to be scrambling to get guys here. And why I said that's different is because now you can't go on the road and see them, right? So you used to be able to go on the road and see them, have conversation, kind of recruit them to come see you. Now everything's going to be done over the phone and, through conversation, and you're going to be, not begging, but you're going to be down on your knee, like, come see me, please come see me, please come visit, because they're going to have everybody. And there's 14 days, and all 130 plus schools are going to be, vying for, the top guys, on the market. So it's going to be a little different, but it's going to be hectic.
Just piggybacking off of Mike's question about their great pass rusher, what else concerns you about Tech's defense?
Because they don't just have one. They got several good pass rushers. Their D line is in my opinion up there with the tops in the league. I mean, they got so much depth. They can roll so many guys in at those 4 positions up front, and they don't miss a beat, and they stay fresh, right? So that concerns you. Linebacker, they moved Caleb to linebacker, so they're more athletic, right? They're long at linebacker. All 3 of them, their nickel Sam all the way to their Will is 6'3" kids. They're athletic and rangy. Their corners, they got all conference corners and an honorable mention all conference guy on the other side, and then their safeties are physical and come downhill. So you can tell defensively, and they're playing good. They're playing good ball for the most part. They run well. They're sound, they're athletic, and then they're deep up front, which poses some challenges because it keeps them fresh in both the run game and the pass game. And then if they get you behind the chains, then they can turn all their pass rushers loose.
And just going back to the recruiting thing a little bit, do you lose an abnormal amount of guys because of all the exceptional exceptions these guys had for the extra years? And does that mean you're going to have to go to the portal more than you would rather do? And are you handcuffed a little bit about I know you mentioned on the ACC network a couple of weeks ago that you have to focus primarily on grad students because of the
Right.
various issues?
Yeah, so great question. So there's you saw it on senior day. We got a bunch of seniors, and there's two parts. So part of that is the question that you're asking about the extensions with COVID. So and then obviously the tragedy. Guys were able to get additional years, and also the other piece of that is a decision that I made when I first got here, not to just clean house and run guys off. Man, I wanted to be committed to the guys that were committed to the university and see them through graduation. And so then there's an additional group of guys that are now going to be graduating, that'll be transitioning on. So it does increase the number. So this is probably the first time where I had, additional numbers to, supplement the roster. But I want to get the right guys, right? Whether they're portal guys or whether they're high school guys, I still want to be a developmental program. But this is a different cycle than the previous two cycles because of the COVID, the tragedy, and then also young men, us fulfilling our obligation to, the young men at the university by seeing them through graduation.
Are you handcuffed at all?
Oh, yeah. So grad transfer route is definitely easier for us in terms of getting them in. You still got to get the right guys because grad school is still challenging. Undergrad is a little bit more challenging because of the 60 hours that they got to complete to get to a degree from UVA, and so even if there is an older guy that's got 1 year of eligibility left. I just don't know. Morally, I don't think it's the right thing to bring a guy in knowing that he's got to have 60 hours and he's got one year to do it, right? That's pretty much impossible. And then, so that creates a little bit of a challenge. So when you're looking at the undergrad guys, you got to make sure that they got the right amount of eligibility. And then also, do they have enough transferable credits to get in? And then are they going to lose credits? Because if they lose credits, then now you're adding that on top of the 60 that they got to complete here. So it's a little bit more of a constraint on the undergrad side. That's why you've only seen a handful of those and more grad transfer guys. So we'll look in both spots for the best players. But it is a little bit easier, so to speak, on the grad transfer route, just because of the degrees the degree fields we have available, and getting those guys in.
And this is the first time you guys are dealing with the scholarship limits changing as well during this time. How difficult is it to kind of go around this? Because I know the limit's 105, but you don't have to reach 105 by each guy getting a full scholarship. Right. How harder is kind of going that?
Yeah, so we don't know exactly what the scholarship numbers are yet, because until the settlement and the conferences and the institutions agree upon that, right? So from an ACC and a university standpoint, I haven't been, given the scholarship numbers, so to speak. So I'm operating based off of the 85. We anticipate that we're going to get the roster reduced to the 105. That's a number that I'm hearing, but still we don't know that for certain. So the way that I'm operating is based off of 85. That's what I'm replacing, right? And then obviously we'll have a list of guys that if the number goes up, we'll be ready to roll. If it stays the same, then we're already in good shape, and then we'll figure out how to make up the difference between. So really, if you stay at 85 and it comes down to 105, it's going to be typically what you've always done, your scholarship guys, and you have some type of preferred walk-on individual. If they say a 105 all the way around, then we'll have guys in the pipeline ready to roll. It's still a slippery slope. It's a little bit tricky because the last thing you want to do is promise something to a guy that you can't deliver, if that makes sense. So we're still waiting on guidance from the settlement, and then that'll give the administration and the ACC guidance on how they want us to proceed.
And any updates on Noah Josie and Ben Smiley? Yeah.
So Noah Josie should be good to go. It was his shoulder, a little bit of a banged up there, and then Smiley's day to day. So hopefully he'll be back with us. I know he's out at practice. He's moving around. He's doing some things. He just has to clear the protocol.
Coach Mack Brown has had such a long and successful career. I just want to get your reaction to the news that he's finishing up there.
Yeah, I shot him a text. Just told him I love him. He's one of the best, both on and off the field, and has had an unbelievable career. And all I can think about is, I know how he impacted my life. So there's going to be so many, countless number of young men whose life he impacted. So it's a career well done. If you're a young coach, that's what you aspire to do, is to have a career where you impact as many people as possible. And I know that's the case with him. So gonna miss him at the ACC meetings, because I usually sit right next to him. I'm gonna miss competing against his teams, but at the same time too, I think he's earned, you know, the right, and to say that he's had an unbelievable career. Hate that it ended this way for him. But excited for his family and what's next for him, because I know he's not done.
In terms of the emotion of this week, you talked about wanting your players to realize it's a rivalry, how important it is, what it means to fans and community. How do you then also balance that it doesn't go over the top on game day, where you lose discipline because of that excitement level?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, having been a part of a rivalry, I've seen it, you know, go too far. Right, and that's not what you want. You want it to be a complete, a competitive, clean game, but it's going to be a game where there is a little bit of emotion. So, constantly challenging the guys to channel it the right way. You know, in between plays, don't waste any energy on what's happening on the other sideline. Don't waste any energy on what's being said. Man, channel that energy so that when that ball is snapped, you got 6 seconds of fury. Right, until the whistle blows, and then that's where you concentrate it. And because again, what's the objective? The objective is to have the better emotions at the end of the game, and so it does take discipline. You got to control that passion and that energy, so that you can channel it where it needs to be channeled, so you can ultimately celebrate in the locker room at the end.
Yeah. 2 more injury questions. Cam Robinson seemed more situational against SMU, so where is he at? And also, Trell Harris warmed up before the game. Where is he at in his health?
Yeah, so you know, we anticipate Trell will be cleared and ready to roll, you know, by game time. And Cam, his shoulder. So he's been playing with the banged up shoulder. That's got to be fixed after the season, and we wanted to just, because of the amount of snaps that he's played with that, and then also some of the dislocations that have taken place throughout the course of the season, we want to take a look at it just to make sure that it wasn't any worse than when we started the season. And so last week he was held out until we got confirmation from the doctors with the imaging that it was safe for him to continue to play the remainder of the season. And then he got the thumbs up later in the week. But the other guys had gotten majority of the reps, and so we said, hey, we'll situational him and get him into the flow of the game. But this week he'll be turned loose and ready to roll.
Just following up on Trell, what does getting him back mean for the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be big. It just gives us some more balance, gives us another option, another body. I think he is a little bit different than the guys out there in terms of his play speed and ability to go over the top. So I think it just, kind of gives us a little bit more balance. Hopefully it'll free up a little bit for Mal and the other guys. So